Falcha. Welcome to the My Slice of Life podcast. I'm Sharon O'Neill and I'm bringing this podcast to you from the Highlands of Scotland as I do every Monday. And I'm very glad to have you with me because I'm really enjoying this season. The topic is the folklore of trees and plants, and this week we are focusing on a cracker of a tree when it comes to folklore. By the way, if you are listening to the audio only of this episode, there is a video version on the YouTube channel I have specifically for the podcast. I just started doing them for this season and it looks like pretty much nobody is watching them so far. So I need to know from you guys if it's worth me continuing to do video format or if you want me just to stick to audio only. I only ask because the videos take me so much longer to produce than the audio only version, so let me know what you think please, it would really help me out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please remember to do that, and don't forget to use the links in the description too. There's quite a lot of information there for you from my blog, my main YouTube channel, as well as the podcast one. There's the Buy Me a Coffee page where you can get some nice little downloads and also leave me a little tip if you were able to help keep the podcast going. I'm also putting quite a few links to sites where I've been getting information for the episodes in case you want to go and do some further reading for yourself. And finally, I need to mention Budget Seeds. They are offering UK listeners or watchers, if you do watch, 10% off your order with them when you use my code SONeil10. Link for budgetseeds.co.uk is also in the description. Just remember to use the code SONeil10 for your 10% off. And of course a big thank you to Budget Seeds for doing that and supporting a very small channel. So now that that's all out of the way, let's crack on and get into this week's topic and the tree of the week. I know I still don't have a jingle for that. So the tree of the week is the mighty oak. Across cultures and centuries, the oak has been seen as a symbol of strength, endurance and wisdom. From ancient druids to Norse mythology, from king's crowns to village gatherings beneath its branches, the oak has a rich and fascinating history. So grab a cup of tea, coffee or whatever else you fancy, settle in and let's explore some of the tales of this fascinating tree. Now the oak is often considered the king of the forest, and for good reason. Its deep roots and towering presence make it a symbol of stability and resilience. Many ancient cultures associated the oak with their most powerful gods. As described in druidry.org when talking about these ancient beliefs to do with the oak tree, they said, in the classical world, it was regarded as the tree of life, as its deep roots penetrate as deep into the underworld as its branches soar to the sky. From Zeus, Thor, Dagda, Jupiter, and more, the oak has been linked to various powerful gods throughout time. Each of these gods also had dominion over rain, thunder, and lightning, and I found a bit on treesforlife.org.uk which says, it is no coincidence that oak trees are more prone to lightning strikes than many other trees. This is because of the tree's high water content and the fact that they are frequently the tallest living things in the landscape. In some beliefs, it was thought that lightning was God striking the tree in order to leave mistletoe behind. In Greek mythology, the oak was sacred to Zeus, king of the gods, and the oracle of Dodona in the northwest of the country was one of the oldest oracles in Greece, and it was located in an oak grove. Now this was in the 14th to 13th centuries BC, and priests would listen to the rustling of the leaves to interpret the will of Zeus. They believed this was how Zeus communicated with them, and these priests were known as the Seloi, I think is how you pronounce it, and they would sleep on the bare ground, never wash their feet, and as well as interpreting the sound of the rustling leaves, they would also translate the voice of a sacred spring that welled up at the base of the tree. There's another oak legend in Greek mythology which claimed a branch from the Dodona oak tree was used to build the Argo, the ship used by Jason and the Argonauts. It said this then allowed the crew to get vital warning messages from Zeus, who used the branch as a way to communicate with them. In Norse mythology, the oak was linked to Thor, the god of thunder, and it was believed that lightning often struck oaks because they were sacred to him. People would even plant oaks near their homes for protection, and this is something which crops up a few times, and I'll come back to this idea a little later. In Celtic lore, the Druids also revered the oak as a sacred tree. In fact, the word Druid is believed to come from an ancient Celtic word meaning oak knower or oak seer, something like that. And to the Druids, the oak was a tree which symbolised not just life, power and wisdom, but also balance. With its deep roots and towering branches, it was able to link the earth with the heavens as well as the underworld. It's believed the Druids would often conduct their ceremonies and rituals in sacred oak groves, as they believed that the oak tree held divine energy and could therefore serve as a link to the gods. Now here too, the oak was associated with oracles and divination. And because of the strength of the oak tree and its longevity, it was thought to provide insight into the natural and spiritual worlds. The oak was also connected to the Celtic god of thunder, Tyrannus, who was sometimes depicted holding a wheel and a lightning bolt. So again we have this connection with the tallest tree which is most likely to be struck by lightning. But it doesn't end there, as the oak tree also played an important role in Celtic times concerning their kings. As oaks were so revered, they were often associated with sacred sites where kings were crowned or where tribal gatherings took place. They believed that either the land spirit or sovereignty goddess would look favourably on a rightful king beneath an oak tree. This link with their higher authorities and kings also meant that cutting down such an oak tree could symbolise the fall of a kingdom. Now the god Dagda was one of the most powerful figures in Irish mythology and was often associated with the oak tree. This was likely because he was seen as a protector and provider and was associated with fertility, agriculture, strength and manliness. He could control life and death. He wielded a massive club or staff which was itself of dual nature. At one end it would slay enemies, but if the other end was used, Dagda, also known as the good god, could bring the dead back to life. But here in the UK, the oak tree was also held in high regard. The oak's strength made it a powerful symbol in folklore, and many people here also believed that oak trees held protective magic. For example, in England, people carried oak leaves for good luck and protection. Another thing that was done was to take the acorns, the fruit of the oak tree, which were believed to bring prosperity and were often placed on windowsills to ward off lightning. I told you we'd be coming back to it. It comes up time and time again. Soldiers in medieval times would sometimes carry oak wood or acorns as talismans for protection in battle. So already we're seeing this connection between the oak tree and protection, which isn't such a strange idea when you think just how big these trees can grow. They aren't small and dainty, they often stand tall and proud above everything else, and so have been given the persona of the protector of the woods. It kind of makes sense. And back in the day, it is said that a tradition which country people would carry out concerning this tree was for its curative powers. Some believed the oak tree was so powerful and healing that they would walk around the tree wishing whatever ailment they had to be carried off by the first bird alighting on its branches. Elsewhere in Cornwall in the south of England, a nail driven into an oak tree cured toothache. Meanwhile in Wales, rubbing the oak with the palm of your left hand on Midsummer's Day kept you healthy all year. Of course it does. There's also a part in oak folklore which says it can be used to predict the weather for the coming summer, depending on which tree's leaves would be seen first. So apparently, if the oak before the ash, then we'll only have a splash. If the ash before the oak, then we'll surely have a soak. If the ash tree gets its leaves first, we'll be in for a typical British summer. In more modern history, tradition has it that Charles II hid in an oak tree when being pursued by the Roundheads, and since then children wore oak leaves on the 29th of May to commemorate Royal Oak Day, now known more as Oak Apple Day, and in some places in England this tradition is still carried out to this day. But there is one oak in particular which has a folklore all of its own, the major oak. This is a large English oak tree near the village of Edwinstowe in the midst of Sherwood Forest, Nottinghamshire in England, and according to local folklore, it was Robin Hood's shelter where he and his merry men would sleep. And according to Wikipedia, it weighs an estimated 23 tonnes, has a girth of 33 feet, that's 10 metres, a canopy of about 92 feet, which is 28 metres, and is about 800 to 1,000 years old. Not only that, but in 2014 it was voted England's Tree of the Year by a public poll by the Woodland Trust, receiving 18% of the votes. These days the branches are so big and heavy that they're actually held up with chains and some sort of scaffolding so that they don't all snap and fall to the ground. Now, I found something on a site called seasonoferth.com, and it talks about the oak being a symbol of transformation, and I want to share this little bit with you that I found. The growth of a small, unassuming acorn into a towering oak tree is a powerful symbol of transformation. Like the acorn, we all possess the ability to grow and change. We can overcome challenges, gain new knowledge, and become the people we aspire to be. So if you are feeling stuck or discouraged, remember the acorn. It is a reminder that anything is possible with time and effort. I thought that was lovely, so I hope you liked it too. I'll link to that site in the notes as well, so you can go and have a look at that for yourself. So I've been doing a lot of research in a lot of different places for this episode, so now I want to tell you about quick bite pieces of folklore which are discussed in a video on YouTube on the Traveller in Time channel. So these are just going to be like a rapid fire list of some of the superstitions related to the oak tree in Ireland and the UK. Okay, here goes. Oak trees were considered to be portals to the fairy realm by the Celts. They believed that if you stood underneath an oak tree during the full moon, you might get to see the fae for yourself. It always comes back to the fairies, let's be honest, it always does. It was once thought that carving your lover's name into the trunk of an oak tree would bring good luck to your relationship. Might not bring so much good luck to the tree if everybody did it though. Do you ever use the saying, knock on wood for good luck? Well, it used to be thought that knocking on an oak tree would bring you good fortune. Now we tend to knock our heads, which it is a little weird, but lots of us still do it. Only we tend to go, knock our head and go, hairy wood is the best. Do you do that? Do you say that where you are? That's what they say here. They knock their head and say, hairy wood is the best. Anyway, in England and Wales, it was believed that oak leaves could ward off evil spirits, and you could protect yourself from these entities by carrying some oak leaves with you wherever you went. Another belief was that sleeping under an oak would give you prophetic dreams or visions of the future. And the Druids often used these trees as gathering places, so they were seen as the tree of knowledge by many. Burning oak wood will bring good luck and prosperity, and in fact in her book, The Folklore of Plants, Margaret Baker tells a story about an oak in Needwood Forest being struck by lightning. Now this is in Staffordshire in England, and people would travel for miles to gather some of the blackened chips to use them as lightning charms. But the folklore doesn't end there. Oh no, we're not done yet. Oak trees can also help you find buried treasure. It was said that if you stand under an oak tree and look down at the ground, you might well see the glint of shiny gold or silver. And apparently, this isn't as mad as it sounds, because oaks were planted to mark the spot where treasure was buried or to mark other important sites. If you want more good luck, just plant an acorn and this will apparently do the job. And finally, cutting down an oak tree is considered very bad luck. In fact, it's such a bad thing to do, the spirits of the forest will seek revenge on those who dare to harm this sacred tree. So, you've been warned. Now, I got all of that on one of the videos on the Traveller in Time channel, like I said, but there was also a very interesting comment left by a viewer which I would like to share with you. So this guy's handle is Mark Edwards 9247, and he talks from the Druid's perspective, and he says this in his comment. So what of the oak? Within an acorn is a small nut, which if processed can be made into acorn flour, an important source of carbohydrate. Providing the acorn is unbroken and kept cool and dry, it will naturally preserve the internal kernel for at least 1 year. It is the kernel within the acorn that creatures such as squirrels harbour so carefully as winter storage. A fully mature English oak can drop as much as 1,000 kilograms of acorns in a good season, and once processed this will produce over 250 kilograms of acorn flour. Mixed with water and baked on a hot rock, this produces a type of unleavened flatbread. This source of carbs was essential for a community's survival. Other natural sources of carbohydrates are few and far between in our native landscape. With this in mind, it should be no surprise that lore was abound that protected and revered this tree. In addition, oak mistletoe had important medicinal qualities. It should be noticed that mistletoe is a parasitic plant. Therefore, the mistletoe that grows on oaks specifically is quite different in composition to a mistletoe that grows on elm, for example. The nutrients within elm mistletoe contain elm juice. The nutrients within oak mistletoe contain oak juice. There is quite a difference that is important to its medicinal qualities. The Druids were artisans of oak mistletoe medicine. I hope this can help to appreciate the lore associated with the sacred oak." End quote. The oak tree has stood the test of time, deeply rooted in both the earth and human imagination. From ancient gods to modern-day saints, it continues to inspire strength and wisdom. So tell me, do you have any oak trees growing near you? Do you have any other folklore about them? Let us all know in the comments, or you can send me an email if you're a bit shy and I can pass on your knowledge to everyone else for you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to give it a like and do all the good things. I'll be back next Monday with more fascinating folklore, so I hope you'll come back and join me. But until then, you take care of your wee self.